that, but first I would like to get back to some dead languages. Last year, a book got published called The Friendly Orange Glow. It's about the Plato system. Anybody knows what the Plato system was? See, okay. So it's pretty dead. Nobody knows about it. It's a fascinating tale of missed opportunities. And I think there's some lessons to be learned there for Perl. Anyways, I would recommend this book for you if you're interested in archaeology or in just how we can prevent ourselves from making the same mistakes. Anyway, but this was my my first dead language. Tutor. By the way, the period that you show there is the period that I worked with it, not that the period of the language that it actually existed. Tutor actually goes back to late 60s, and it wasn't until 2008 that somebody switched off the last machine that actually ran Tutor. The next version is Tencor, was a spin-off of Plato. Some people know what Tencor is. Please raise a hand.
We worked there.
Exactly. It was a spin-off of Plato for the IBM PC with full multimedia support, sound and laser discs. But that's my second dead language. And yeah, so after 1993, I needed to figure out to do something else. So I started doing web development because the internet was all new. And so I started with Wendy, the first commercial DevOps company in the Netherlands. Nobody knew what DevOps was at the time, but that's what we did. And basically we started doing stuff there on websites, and we actually got the first online flight information system of the world on the web from Schiphol Airport. And that's when I actually learned to love Perl 5. I did a lot of Perl 5 development for ourselves. I actually did a Lisp Perl. It looked like a lot like PHP, but I think it's running a templating system is like a rite of passage. You find the power of eval, and there you go. It ran many Dutch websites for many years. I think the last one got switched off like about 8 years ago now, so that's quite a long time. And I actually used that to generate PHP code because we didn't have modperl yet. So, and it was very fast, and it never made it to CPAN. And I'm so glad that it didn't make it to CPAN because it was so riddled with security issues. It was, yeah, you know, the power of eval. There's a reason why we do use no monkey eval see no monkey eval in Perl 6. Anyway, by the end of the 90s, we sold the company. We grew to 45 people, but being a pointy-haired boss is no fun. And we needed to grow to be able to compete, and we figured that we could no longer do that. The term burnout comes to mind, and yeah, it was not a nice time, but it was a time to start giving back. So one of the things that we did after we sold the company, and we thought we were very rich, was help organize. Help organize. Are we there yet? Okay. Help organize the second YAPC Europe. I must say we had more people there then than we have here today now. So that's not a good sign. Something that actually repeated last year. But yeah, that's another story. So I won't talk about that much. So back to 2002. I basically went on Perl 5 portals and asked, well, what can I do to help? And Jarkko told me, well, iThreads need more testing, and I/O layers. Yeah, do some stuff there. So I did that. I did quite a number of modules on I/O layers and threading on CPAN, and learned along the way that basically iThreads are broken by implementation. Design is nice, but the implementation sucks major. And this hasn't changed, I'm sorry to say. I don't think it can change. And I think most core developers will agree with me with that, in that respect. Anyway, I always do something else then, so I tried to get around it, and I actually implemented a module called forks. Now, forks basically implements the threads interface, but uses forks. Why Perl 5 itself hasn't done that in the first place, I have no idea. But this is really one of the few modules of mine that I know have been used in production. And I'm pretty proud of that. From 2004, somebody fortunately took over the maintenance of that module. Nowadays, I would not recommend using it because there's something better, I'm told last week, called MCE. And basically, if you really want to go async in Perl 5, this is the thing you have to look at. And to me, it looks like it took forks and thread pool, that's another module of mine, to the next level. So I highly recommend that. So, back to 2003. No money in the bank, so I guess I had to go back to work again. And I started working at Booking.com. When I started working there were 35 people. It was a pretty crazy situation, and there was a lot of work to be done. So I did not have any energy anymore to follow any Perl developments for quite some time. Fast forward to 2012, there's 5,000 people working at Booking, and it was time for me to do something else. It's not the same. If you start in a company with 35 people and then there's a company with 5,000, it is just not the same. So what to do next? Well, I decided I will not sit idly by to see my favorite language die, not this time. You can quote me on that. So one of the things that I did in 2012 was organize a Perl Reunification Summit. Some people may recognize themselves in the picture. I think about 3 or 4. Anyway, Larry's there. Yeah, it was something special in the sense that it got together a lot of people in the same room physically that hadn't been together in the same room for various reasons for a long time. And yeah, it didn't work out as I hoped it would. But in the end, I think we learned a lot from it, and I think some of the people actually realized that people they meet online are also people. So in 2012, I decided basically to go and focus myself on Perl 6. In 2012, learning Perl 6 then was much harder than it is now. Documentation wasn't as extensive as it is now. Definitely not as stable with regards to features as it is now. It was at least 50 times slower than it is now. It didn't have any proper Unicode support yet, and it didn't have any of the concurrent features yet. But it was then actually that I realized something. I realized that I had to come out of the closet and confess that I'm a bigamist. I'm a bigamist because I love Perl 5 and I love Perl 6. But I was focusing on Perl 6 at the time. So somebody gave me a commit bit, and I'm now number 2 apparently at the number of commits in Rakudo. In 2015, we actually had the first official Perl 6 release, and many people have worked on it. Some people actually asked to be removed from the list. Not many, fortunately. But we got something going. And that's also something I'm very proud of. From 2015 on, I actually started working or writing the Perl 6 weekly. Initially, it wasn't very weekly, but gotten better at it. So we're now at 203 weeklies since 2014, so 4.5 years of weeklies. You could argue this is the fourth iteration of the weekly. On Perl.com, I learned yesterday, actually the first iteration of the Perl 6 weeklies are available. And I think I'm going to write an article about that in not too far future, or at least refer to it as something that, okay, here it started all here, and this is not actually where we began. But anyway, getting back to Perl, I love Perl. I love Perl as a language, aka Perl with capital P. I'm not too fond of the Perl runtime, Perl 5 runtime. I've made that position clear in the past. I'm still convinced that it is not the best thing for Perl in the future. I really like to see that people continue to maintain it. And I really want you to actually thank all the people that still work on it, because it's an unthankful job, and it's never good, and it's never right. So that's something I would like to have said. Having said that, I think a language has a community. It's the Perl 5 language, it's the Perl language, it's the Perl 6 language that have communities. The Perl 5 runtime also has a community, but they're more closely knit together, I think, and less spread out over the world. Well, I should say less spread out in opinions than the rest of the language, the communities are. It's that community that has invested in a language. Again, it's the language. And there's more than one runtime for the language, the Perl 5 language. Currently, we actually have 4, I would say. There's the Perl. Thank you, Will. Of course, everybody knows Perl, but there's also Perlito. And Perlito actually allows you to write Perl 5 code and run it on the JVM. And as far as I know, this is actually used in production. Sortish, okay. There's CPerl, that I understand is also used by some people in production, by Reini Urban. And of course, there's RPerl by Will Braswell. They all run a subset of some Perl 5 programming language. Even Perl runtime runs a subset because we have different versions and different features, and sometimes features stay there for a long time and sometimes they move away. So it's always a subset of some Perl 5 programming language. So why don't we have that for Perl 6 as well? The Perl 6 runtime. Well, we tried developing that. It was called Use v5, and originally the idea was, okay, we can just run Perl 5 code inside Perl 6. That was a long time ago. That was like 15 years ago, I think, Larry. Just about. 7 years ago, somebody picked it up and tried to implement that, but for various reasons that has stalled. Syntax was not such a big issue. The semantics basically were a bigger issue and a lot of work. So it was done actually that people realized that semantics are a prerequisite for getting v5 to work. However, one of the things that I actually realized last year is that these semantics, these Perl 5 semantics, may have a use of their own. If you look at CPAN, that's like the bank, right? If you look at darkpan, that's like the shoe boxes that everybody keeps under the bed. But everybody wants to keep the valuables valuable. They all have invested in it. They don't want to throw it away. So that's what I'm trying to do with the CPAN butterfly pan. So let's go back a little bit in history. If you look at it, In the beginning, there was Perl. And then there was CPAN. And then we got the Perl Foundation. And then we got Recruiter Perl 6. I call it the drum-centric view. I think we need to move to a more different view. I call that the CPANican view. CPAN should be actually at the center of everything, because CPAN is where people invested in. It's the language that we're invested in. And ask anybody, what is the unique selling point of Perl? They will tell you it's CPAN. So we should realize that and make that the center of our attention. So I try to basically do this in an open letter that I did last January, introducing the butterfly CPAN butterfly plan, not knowing that actually there is such a thing as a butterfly plan. It's a type of architecture in which two wings of a house are constructed at an angle to the core, like that. So apparently, on some unconscious level, I knew about that, so that's why I call it like that. There you go. The CPAN butterfly plan actually provide Perl 5 semantics in Perl 6, because Perl 5 is so much more than just Perl, the runtime, because it's more like Perl plus the core modules plus CPAN plus DarkPAN. Because everybody wants to feel at home. That's what most people in this room are familiar with Perl 5. Now, the reactions to all of this were not at all positive. I'm also told that it is the 4th most read article on Perl.com ever. So, yeah, it had quite a lot of comments, and not many of them were very positive. Still, I got 77% upvoted. But yeah, all of the reactions sort of hit me at a bad time, because I was in our family. We had some problems there, and my brother-in-law died in that period as well. So it was a bit difficult. So, where are we now? Does anybody get the reference? No, okay. I guess I'm the only David Bowie fan around here then. We have the Perl 6 ecosystem. We have about 1,100 modules in there. And most of these modules are actually on CPAN. We use the CPAN infrastructure to store Perl 6 distributions, so they get distributed all over the world, so that you're closer to your mirror and you can download them more quickly. They're carefully separated from the Perl 5 modules. In the past, we've had some glitches there that upset some people, but I think we got it covered now. Of those 1,100 modules for the for the butterfly plan, I actually implemented a lot of built-in functions of Perl 5. Some of them are trivial. Anybody know what study does nowadays? Some are easy, like chomp and chop. Some have slightly different semantics. Substring, for instance, is a left value in Perl 5. It is not in Perl 6. Index returns -1 if you don't find it in Perl 5, but returns nil in Perl 6. And if you pop from an empty array in Perl 6, you get a failure. In Perl 5, you just get undef. So there's things that you have to think about when you're actually porting these things. But people are used to pop just returning undef, so there you go. we'll give you undef. Well, the closest thing to undef in Perl 6, because we don't have undef. It's called nil, basically. Some of them have magic semantics. Shift, for instance. Does everybody know what shift does? Yeah? Yeah? Well, it shifts off add underscore if you don't give it anything, and it shifts off add argv if you're in the outer scope. So there's things like that. Some just need native call sugar, because it basically just calls to the C library that you have in your system anyway. So I did a lot of those. And then there's the more troublesomes like tie, pack, unpack, quote meta. Those were quite a lot of work. Fortunately, quote meta was done by somebody else already, so that's good. And then you have the ones that are just goofy. Reset. Does anybody know what reset does?
It's
What, sorry? Nope. Nope. I'll give you a hint. You can give it a range of characters. Yeah, exactly. So it will reset variables that start with the given letters. This is.
and also reset the state of match once.
Okay, well.
What
But
idiot thought of that?
I have no idea. It feels to me that this is from way, way, way back before we have lexicals. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. This is basically something from Perl 0. Okay, there you go. But we have it in Perl 6 now. So there you go. So these are the core and CPAN modules that we know for sure actually have the same API as the Perl 5 version. Yeah, there's some funny stuff there with regards to list more utils and list some utils, but does anybody know what the difference between the two is? Not you, Dave. They're the same. They're just built differently and have different dependencies, but they're basically the same. I did not go to the trouble of actually providing the same different configuration dependencies. I just basically let one depend on the other and be done with that. But we need more hands for this. I've done a lot of them, and I will continue to do a lot of them, but we need more hands in that respect. So please join. Implementing known Perl 5 features is a good training for you. And there will be people that can help you with this. There will be people that you can ask answers to, ask questions to. There's stuff like Stack Overflow that you can actually ask your questions to. And on the channel, if you really want to have an answer quickly. But why would we do this? I mean, Perl is tainted, right? Why should I put all the effort in this? Well, I don't think it really should be about how the world sees Perl. I think it should be about how we, as the community, see Perl. I think we should be proud. We should actually engage in guerrilla marketing. If you see a negative blog post or a comment about Perl, react to it in a nice but determined way. Hug the trolls, and if they don't like hugging, just pat them on the head. Because Perl, as a brand, is still very strong. In our experiences, we've done a lot of conventions and conferences, not all Perl, but also outside Perl, more generally open source, and everybody really knows about Perl. Probably for the wrong reasons and the wrong perceptions, but everybody knows about it. So I urge you to keep telling and showing people that Perl has a future. be it on the original Perl 5 runtime or any other virtual machine, be it Perl 5 or Perl 6. I mean, there's more than one way to do it. And I would say the future of Perl is here. And then I realized that I had 20 minutes left in my presentation, but not enough presentation left. So, do you have any questions?
Thinking about functions like reset, have you thought at all about whether you want to actually support a subset of various of the other implementation functions?
Which function exactly?
Reset.
Well, there's
Are there things you can leave out?
you could leave things out, yes. There's actually, for me, there were other reasons to actually do these functions. And the reason was really that I could show that you can do this stuff in Perl 6. And basically show, it's also a grab bag of things that you might want to use in your own programs. So the source is there. I hopefully carefully documented it. And if not, let me know. But it's also a grab bag of an example, set of examples that you can actually use in your own attempts to port Perl 5 code to Perl 6. So that's why I did it. Why did I do study? Yeah, well, it was easy. And I could say you can do study in Perl 6. Yeah.
How does someone without any experience in Perl 6 get involved with Git?
Sorry, one of the things of getting older is that you start to lose your hearing. So could you please repeat the question?
How does someone with no experience in Perl 6 get involved with this? I find it interesting.
How do you get involved with?
Oh, how do you get involved? Okay.
With no experience.
With no experience, but you have experience in Perl 5. I would, well, first of all, download Rakudo. Rakudo star is a good start because it also gives you a bunch of modules and stuff. Then basically either get on the channel for Perl 6 if you have any specific questions. I'm going to write, let me put it this way, before the conference, I actually did a whole day workshop for people that wanted to port modules from Perl 5 to Perl 6. And I've learned a lot from it. Some people actually learned a little bit as well, I think. Also, Wendy tells me here, there's this nice brochure introducing Perl 6 that you can get over there. But anyway, I learned a lot of stuff from the workshop, and I'm probably going to be writing a number of articles for Perl.com in the near future, describing parts of the things that I figured out from the workshop.
There's a Perl 6 hackathon tomorrow and the next day.
Okay. As Util points out, if you are still around here, please visit us in the hackathon room, which I think is Idaho tomorrow. I think it's Idaho, somewhere around this corridor anyway. And we can help you get get a running start. Yes.
You already said it, but I'll add it. If you do IRC and join Perl 6, you'll be mob hugged and constant, and you'll never be able to leave. So don't teach you.
Well, there is that. There is a certain addictive power to Perl 6.
Liz, the hackathon will be in Arizona.
Arizona, okay. Hackathon is in Arizona. Sir.
You want to get involved in Perl 6, you have no idea how it works. When he's got some books he can buy out here that will introduce you to Perl 6. You can start reading.
Okay. Thank you.
There's also a forum coming up on Friday.
Jeff Koff is going to, that's tomorrow, right?
Friday.
Okay, right, okay. So there you go. The Jeff Koff is going to give a course in Perl 6 on Friday. I think there's still tickets available. Yeah.
Given the fact that XS is such an important part of some of the big modules, and it doesn't exist in Perl 6, what is the thought on how to tackle that?
Okay, there's basically a number of reasons why you would use. The question is, what do you do about access in Perl 6? Now, in Perl 5, there's a number of reasons why you would use access. One of them is to make things faster. I would say don't do that. But the thing is, generally in those cases, there's also a pure Perl version available. And we can at least use the pure Perl version as a source to do a migration. That's one. The second reason you want to use access in Perl 5 is because you want to access native libraries. Now that is very well covered in Perl 6. We got native call, and basically you write sub with a signature that matches the signature that you have in your library, indicate what the return value is, and then basically name the library, and that's all you need to do to basically call that native function in Perl 6. What was the third reason? Because you want to do access internals in Perl 5. That is generally not necessary in Perl 6 because we already have very powerful introspection. Everything is an object. So, and everything has methods to actually introspect itself. So you can actually introspect the meta class of your class and find out what's going on and go even further if you want. But yeah, it does stop somewhere. I mean, it's not turtles all the way down, but close to it. So only the only case where you actually needed to do it to make things faster are a bit problematic, I would say, in general. But the other cases are not. I mean, the example that I have here that I just shown, things like local time, basically is a one-liner in Perl 6, and we get basically seize local time. That's it. Things like sub name that you have on CPAN to find out the name of your current sub is also something that you have in Perl 6 in introspection. So you don't have to worry about those things. It's only the case where you want to make it faster. And at this point in time, I would say don't go to Perl 6 because you want to make things faster. Not yet. Not yet. If you're interested in making things faster in wall clock, then most definitely look at Perl 6 because we can actually parallelize a lot of things much better, much easier than Perl 5 can. So, but generally, if you're on a 4-core machine, you can make things about 3 times as fast in wall clock by parallelizing things. That's a rough figure that we have. At the expense of being about 4 times as more CPU, but there you go. More question?
Does Perl 6 have something to deal with the way that we link objects to their destructor when they go out of scope?
Okay. By default in Perl 6 does not have any reference counting. So we actually do not have timely destruction. You can actually specify a destroy method, but you cannot know when if ever it gets executed. So that's an issue, perhaps. There's several things around that. If you have something that has external resources, you can actually mark it. You can actually create a so-called leave phaser in that block, and basically free the resources whichever way you leave that block. Right. So in the case of database handle,
Or in an end block.
Or in an end block. Yeah. That's another way of doing that, indeed, end block. But then you have scoping, probably scoping, well, maybe not. Okay, you're right. The other thing is, last week, I finally figured a way to make a module that actually would allow you to sort of mimic timely destruction. The module is called Finalizer, all capitals. And basically, if you register an object with the finalizer, and your user basically says, this is the level that I want to basically, if I exit this, I want to finalize all those things that I have in here, it will call automatically those destroy or whatever you put in the finalizer for that object. This effectively gives you the possibility of doing almost the same thing as you have in Perl 5. But I haven't talked Jonathan into actually putting this in the core yet, so it's still out there as a module. Having said that, because people say, well, timely destruction is very important because we need to free up resources, right? And of course, if it's internal memory resources, you shouldn't really worry about that because the garbage collect that we have in Perl 6 is very good. If something is not reachable anymore, it will get collected, right? It's not like we just basically keep building and keep using more memory. Things will get destroyed. It's just not timely. Right, okay. Questions? Todd?
What does study do in Perl 6?
What does?
What does study do in Perl 6?
The same as in Perl 5. Sorry, question was, what does study do in Perl 6? Yeah. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I think we are on for a slightly longer break than anticipated, but that's okay. But before we all go away, there's Jeffrey who would like to have a word with you. Thank you.